I'm here in downtown Seattle on 2nd Avenue, but I got planes, trains, and autobuses waiting for me. I'll explain what I'm doing momentarily, but first, we need to get going and walk a few blocks to Symphony Station to catch my first ride. I walk through the entrance, through the mezzanine level, I boop, and walk down to the platform. In a few short minutes, my one-line train towards Federal Way downtown via SeaTac Airport is pulling on up. Once it does, I board, find a seat, and oh great, a partially dotted window. Oh well. While I'm on here, let's talk a little bit about the plan. Today I'm headed to Eugene, Oregon. Tracktown, USA, baby! And since I was going to be in Oregon, I felt like I needed to make a pit stop in Portland as well. So, since there are multiple destinations on this journey, I thought it might be fun to try out a different mode for each segment. On this first leg, I'll be flying Alaska Airlines, well, technically SkyWest, from SeaTac International Airport to the Eugene Airport to spend a bit of time in Oregon's second city. From there, I'll be taking an Oregon Point bus booked through Amtrak from Eugene to Portland. And then for that last leg, I'll be taking the good old Amtrak Cascades from Portland back to Seattle. Once I get to the SeaTac station, I take a few seconds to watch the Link train depart before I make my way down the platform, around the monstrous parking garage, to the departures deck. I do have TSA pre-check, so I just walk towards that security line, and I must have had stellar timing as it only took 3 minutes to get through security today. And yes, I am here way too early again. I gotta go and make sure that my gate still exists before anything else. Am I the only one that ever does that? Oh, the fancy new C terminal looks pretty good. Judging by the amount of people here, this is long overdue. Doesn't really look like they touch the main waiting areas, though. Yay, the gate exists. Let's plane spot while I go over the details of this flight. I'm taking Alaska Flight 3360 from SeaTac to Eugene. The cash price was running at $269 when I was booking, a bit steep for me. But for some reason, the points cost was only 5,000 Atmos points this time. A heck of a good deal there. And yes, I was suckered into that $15 upgrade to premium again. Spoiler, it was not worth it this time. I spent my time in a quiet corner watching the customer service desk waiting for my boarding to begin. About 15 minutes late, it starts. When they call my boarding group, I get my boarding pass scanned and start making my way down the walkway. I have a love-hate relationship with these gates. On one hand, it's not the most convenient way to board a plane, but I do get giddy getting so close to all the aircraft here. Pay attention to what door they say you'll board through. I get my boarding pass scanned at that door and step out onto the tarmac. Something about walking on a plane like this makes me feel like some highfalutin public figure or something, especially with no one else around like this. I make my way towards the seat and just know that the overhead bins are tight. Oh, here's my seat, 8A. I settle in next to the window, and I love the 2x2 configuration on here. Good legroom here on the upgraded seat as well. The tray table, it's clean and works well. I'm happy about that. I checked through the literature. Am I the only one that misses Sky Mall, though? I don't want to buy anything, but I do want to flip through the pages. Well, apparently our pilot is on a plane that is delayed coming in, so we end up waiting at the gate here for about 42 minutes, and then we finally push back and get on our way. We taxi down the entire length of the airport, including the S terminal where most of the international carriers are based out of. Always cool to see which planes are in. Eventually, it's our turn on the runway, and the engines kick into full gear before it's wheels up, and immediately we are greeted by the waters of Puget Sound. The flight heads north as we begin to climb an elevation before we make the big sweeping turn to head south. We get great views of Alki and all of West Seattle there, the industrial port area on the Duwamish there, and the Kitsap Peninsula, Blake Island, Vashon Island, and Maury Island. It wouldn't be complete without Tahoma/Rainier seeing us off as well. As we continue to head south, Tacoma sitting on Commencement Bay comes into view along with the South Puget Sound Basin. It's really cool to see places that I've recently seen from the surface from this new angle. Washington's former Alcatraz, McNeil Island, even looks, dare I say, peaceful from up here. Fox, Anderson, and Ketron Islands aren't half bad either. Oh hey! Bud Inlet? How you doing today? Looks like Olympia is happy to be at your shores. Pretty cool to see 2 additional volcanoes joining the party as well, with Mount Adams and Mount St. Helens being a bit shy trying to hide in the haze. And, heck yeah, it's time for service. But, due to the short duration of this flight, only apple juice and water were served even here in premium. So, yes, I made sure to get both. Soon we enter into the clouds ourselves as we proceed over southern Washington. We barely can see the mighty Columbia below as we cross over into the state of Oregon. The clouds begin to give way just in time to see Mount Hood standing guard over the patchwork farms of the Willamette Valley. The last flight I was on, I saw where the cataclysmic Ice Age floods scoured the landscape, and from here I can see the result of all that rich soil that was deposited from the floodwaters that got trapped in the valley before making it out to the Pacific. The grass seed capital of the world thanks Glacial Lake Missoula and Glacial Lake Columbia for their service. As we begin the descent, the cities of the valley, like Salem there, and a bit further upstream, Albany there, hugging the banks of the meandering river that was their lifeblood during their formative years. As we get lower and lower, we can see this distinctive saddle in the ridge there. It didn't have a name until Eugene's newspaper in 2008 solicited ideas from their readers, and it was named the Hayworth Saddle after a family who farmed the area since 1875. Once we fly over Veneta Lake and we can see the city of Eugene off in the distance, we make another wide, sweeping turn for our approach into the Eugene Airport runway. The landing is incredibly smooth and we begin to taxi to our gate. Even though we left about 50 minutes late, we made up some time and arrived only about 20 late. I grab my belongings and begin to leave the Embraer aircraft, thanking the flight crew on the way out. I continue off the jet bridge, and what in the jumpin' Jehoshaphat is happening here? Why is it so crowded? Is the Eugene airport like this all the time? Are there no seats for people? No way all these people are gonna fit on the plane that I just came in on. I don't know, but get me out of here. So what's next? Eugene's transit provider, Lane Transit District, does not have a route serving the airport for some reason. It would be about a 40-minute questionable walk to the nearest LTD bus stop. Sure, there is rideshare, which looked to cost about $20 to downtown Eugene. But there is one other option. The 99 Vine. With some funds from the state, this route operated on a trial basis with 4 trips a day from McMinnville to Eugene, with stops including Corvallis, Junction City, and the airport here. It was first come, first serve, but it was also free. So I had to try it out. Why am I using the past tense here? Because it's already kind of gone. The last day of the pilot program was on June 30th. Now the Pacific Crest Line's operated route only operates once a day with an extended routing, and you would need to reserve your seat ahead of time, as it's no longer free, and will cost you now anywhere from $5 to $30 depending on distance, with a trip from the airport here to Eugene now costing $10. The stop is located across the drop-off area just to the south of the rideshare pickup area, and it's shared with the hotel shuttles. About 4 minutes after its scheduled time, I see the Ford Cutaway coming right towards me. Nice to see someone taking their bike on it. The door is open, and I confirm that it's going towards Eugene. Oh yeah, back window. And take my seat. Once everyone is settled, we're off. We begin to leave the area with views of the air traffic control tower, and I'm impressed. The seats were great, the driver's making conversation with the other riders, and it's an overall smooth ride. We make our way along the rural roads, passing many farm fields and even some livestock, like these neighborly mammals. We cross Highway 99 before we turn south, paralleling the Union Pacific Rail Yard on our way into the city. Utilizing Chambers and 7th, we enter into the core of Eugene. Whoa, look at that fancy stop for the Emerald Express. The area isn't particularly dense, but it still feels fairly human-scaled. At the site of the Windmill drive-thru coffee chain, we turn south on Olive Street as we make our way through downtown Eugene. And I gotta say, it's looking pretty dang magnificent in this summer sun here. We end up making a full loop around Eugene Station to get to our bay. Oh, look at what we have here. The MX New Flyer at their stop at the station. Cool. Eugene Station takes up the majority of the block and opened in 1998 as the hub of the Lane Transit District. As such, 23 of their lines utilize the station, as well as services like this one. It also houses their customer service counter, it has restrooms, and even a public plaza dedicated to Rosa Parks. Very impressive. I'll be getting off at the next stop, so we continue to press east through town via 10th and then shimmying our way over to Broadway. If the color scheme of this building didn't give it away, Eugene is the home to the University of Oregon Ducks, and I'm taking this to the U of O stop, as I'll be staying in that part of town while I'm here. We merge onto Franklin Boulevard, and when I see the Matthew Knight Arena, we make a hard turn as we approach my stop at U of O's Jacqua Center for Student Athletes. The driver actually went to use the facilities so I could shamelessly foam over the vehicle. The livery may be a bit simple, but it's really grown on me, and I'm happy that I got to take part of this pilot program. But seriously, LTD, why no route to the airport? A few days later. I'm back over here by Matthew Knight Arena to catch my next ride, but first, I gotta say goodbye to this little adorable goofball. My hands are full, so toe tap it is. I end up walking back to the Jacqua Center for the Student Athletes to catch the Point Intercity Cascade route's starting location. Is that it? Nope, that's the Pacific Crest lines towards Medford. Just a couple minutes later, a Van Hool CX-45 is coming right at me. The driver gets out, opens the luggage compartment, scans my ticket, and I walk right on. These laminate wood floors are a nice touch. I make my way towards the back and try to find a seat that's calling to me. The legroom on this coach is fairly tight, but the footrest is nice. The seats also have this cup holder, a very small tray table with more cup holder hole things, some OS handles on the seat in front of you, as well as individual air vents and reading lights above you. I didn't notice or find any power outlets, but so far so good. After the handful of passengers here got settled in, we are off to our next stop at the Eugene Amtrak station. Is that MX running down a grassy median like some hip European city? Sure is. Tracktown, USA, baby! The Cascades Point service stretches from the University of Oregon to Portland's Union Station via Eugene Station, Albany, Salem, Woodburn, and Tualatin. MTR Western is the company contracted out from the state to operate this route, and tickets must be purchased through Amtrak. This route works well as it essentially is there just to complement the train service on the corridor, as there are only 3 round-trip trains between the 2 largest Oregon cities. And I only paid $17 for this trip. We pull up to Eugene Station, and I'm happy I got on where I did. Look at how many people are waiting to travel on this route today. It took about 15 minutes to get everyone loaded before we leave the station to really get this leg going. We loop around through the area, passing some historical buildings, but also the hip new shops and such occupying the buildings around here before we cross over the rail tracks below, passing by the City Hall, over the Willamette River, and merging our way onto I-105 and then I-5 to begin heading north through the Willamette Valley. The weather today made sure we weren't distracted by the mountains in the distance, but even those clouds can't take the Coburg Hills here away from us. Personally, I'm a big fan of these pockets of Gary Oaks. No, not the Pokemon rival, the Oregon White Oak, which are native to the area, including the entire valley here, but due to the agricultural nature of the valley, it's now limited to these steep slopes on the random hills. Oh hey Phil, Berts. Oregon produces 99% of the nation's hazelnut crops, often called filberts in the area, yet it still only accounts for 5% of the global supply. Thanks, Turkey. That's enough beauty for now, so let's check out the onboard restroom. It's small. There's the toilet, an emergency button, hand sanitizer. Oh, a frosted back window behind a curtain, and a mirror, and a trash receptacle. Smells great, as I think I might have been the first one in here today. I make my way back up to my seat, and looking out the window, it makes sense why Lynn County here is the grass seed capital of the world. We exit I-5 to use Highway 34 and then 99E to make our approach into Albany. After passing by much industry focused on agriculture, we are reaching the stop at the Albany Amtrak station. This station here is actually Amtrak's most western station, just slightly more west than Vancouver, BC, and Eugene. I'm also a bit surprised at the transit connections here. Better than I imagined. I'll have to stop off here sometime. With minimal wait, we exit the station, make our way through the fairly unremarkable section of Albany in order to merge back north on I-5. The valley here really opens up for a bit, but within 10 minutes, the highway is back next to some hills. We even see our first vineyard of the trip, with many of those grapes destined to become famous Oregon Pinot Noir. That's not the only exciting thing here. We also have the campy Enchanted Forest amusement park. We descend out of the hills and soon we're exiting I-5, crossing over it, and entering into the capital city of Salem via 99E, also known as Western Street. Within 8 minutes, we're pulling up to Salem Station. It's here that the bus gets completely full, with not an empty seat to be seen. Luckily, there's just about an hour left of this journey. We skirt the edge of Willamette University and then turn down State Street to make our way back to I-5. As we continue north, we quickly return to being surrounded by farms of all sorts of grasses, nursery products, and even hops for Oregon's large craft beer scene. Out of nowhere, we're exiting the freeway again to make a stop in Woodburn. This is one of the stops that the Point Cascades route serves, but not Amtrak Cascades. This transit center looks fine here. Although, we have no on or offs. Getting back on the freeway is a breeze, and soon we're nearing the outskirts of the Portland metro area. We pass a few more nursery farms and some fills, and then traffic hits. Even midday on a weekday, traffic can get pretty gnarly around here. The perk of that is that we get more time on the bridge over the Willamette that replaced one of the most important ferries in the region, the Boones Ferry. We slowly make our way through Wilsonville and past the interchange with I-205 and then over the Tualatin River before we exit the freeway near Bridgeport Village, making a ridiculously long loop in order to be able to approach our next and penultimate stop, Tualatin. A handful of passengers depart here, which makes sense as it does have somewhat decent transit connections as well. We make our way back to the freeway to begin our trek through the southwest suburbs. Much like death and taxes, traffic through the Terwilliger curves is always something that you can count on. But once again, with an occasional view like this, I can't complain much. The glass of the south waterfront high-rises come into view and I'm starting to get giddy. Oh hey Max, you're looking good. I'd tap onto that. We pass through the interchange with I-405 to take that approach to our stop via Everett Street through the absolutely pleasant Pearl District. I just love to see so many thriving businesses in the charming, walkable neighborhood. After passing the North Park blocks, we turn north on 6th Avenue, and within a few moments, we are pulling into our stop at Portland's Union Station, about 30 minutes late due to that thick traffic from Woodburn on. Not great, but for $17, I got my money's worth. Once everyone else is up, I grab my things and take one nice, slow stroll through the Van Hool. I thank the driver, and as you probably predict, I gotta get those bus fanning shots in. Even getting a peek at the Central Oregon breeze. Oh yeah. Time to walk 2 blocks southeast. Dang! Look at that FX bus. You know how I feel about bright liveries. Oh yeah. I gotta catch a Max to enjoy my time in Portland. A few days later. Again. Portland, you've been great. But now I'm on the south end of downtown near PSU, and it's time to head back home. Let's take this FX bus back to Union Station. I hop on, find a seat on this snazzy articulated Nova bus, and begin the trek through downtown Portland. It's pretty quiet out here on this dreary Monday morning, but it still looks fantastic. It takes about 10 minutes to make our way through downtown and then Old Town before stopping essentially across the street from Union Station. It's an absolutely gorgeous building and definitely an icon for the city. The main waiting area for the station is somewhat simple, but the ornate details really make it feel grand. Huge plus is that there's a convenience store right inside the station. Just be prepared to pay those convenience store prices. If you want the best chance of getting a window like I do, stand right around here as this is where the general boarding line begins to form. After those who need assistance, individuals who bring their bike on board, and those in parties of 8 or more board, it's our turn. I exit through the doors of the station and out onto the platform to take in the beauty of this beautiful Siemens locomotive. And then I make my way towards the rebuilt Bud Amfleet car. I'm in coach today as my poor bid was not granted an upgrade, so I make my way into car 2. I walk through the car until I find the seat that speaks to me. Oh, we got power, a nice big seat back tray table, a seat back pocket, and plenty of legroom. Even though this train is completely sold out, this is going to be a comfortable ride. Just 1 minute late, we begin to chug north and exit the station. As this is Amtrak Cascades number 502, it only operates from Portland to Seattle, with stops in between. And as such, today, I will be riding the entire length of the 3.5 hour service. I ended up paying $55 for this ticket, which I guess is fine. We cross under the simply beautiful Fremont Bridge before we cross over the Willamette ourselves via the BNSF rail-only bridge built in 1908. Even though we aren't necessarily close, this is one of my personal favorite views of the downtown Portland skyline. After about 5 minutes cutting through North Portland, we cross part 1 of the Columbia with views of the many floating homes, then over Hayden Island, before we cross the main stem of the Columbia. On clear days, we could see Mount Hood, but between the river itself and the new Vancouver waterfront rising up along its banks, I'm content. And literally, within a minute, we're pulling into our first stop at Vancouver, Washington. It might not be the best couve, but this was the first couve. We press north and the suburban area begins to fade away into farms and fields, with the occasional river crossing like this one over the Lewis River. After passing through the community of Woodland, we squeeze in between I-5 and the Columbia River. I may have made a poor decision to face east rather than towards the river, so I guess it's a good time to use the facilities. This feels darn luxurious compared to those tiny bus restrooms. So spacious, and there is a sink this time. It's all great, even if I do struggle getting the door open. Since I'm already up, I may as well take a quick walk. Oh, there's that mighty Columbia. I needed that. Looks like the cafe car is completely full as well. If I kept walking that way, I'd end up in business, so I just turn around and make my way back to my seat. I zone out for a bit, watching traffic on the freeway, and soon we're pulling into our next stop at Kelso, which is the smaller Twin City to Longview. It's so nice of these volunteers to help at these smaller stations, but with over 38,000 yearly boardings here, I do wish they were paid. After passing through town, we are back into the rural northwest landscape. Eventually, we break away from the freeway for a bit and cross the Cowlitz River on our way through more woods and fields. We do pass through small communities like Winlock here. By 1923, the city was known as the egg and poultry capital of the world, which is still celebrated to this day via the world's largest egg, which is actually not an egg. But go ahead, Winlock. I get it. Look at these cute mini ponies! After a while, the valley opens up and we begin to pass through the city of Chehalis, including passing by the former rail station, now home to the Lewis County Museum, but we continue on, stopping in the next town over, the city of Centralia. Leaving the station, the scenery is much the same as it's been, passing through small towns, but mostly just farms and woodlands. After about half an hour, we're pulling into Olympia Lacey Station, which is actually located a fair bit outside of the cores of either city. If you board or alight from here, just be aware of that. We cruise north along the Nisqually before we cross it and over I-5 to join up with the Point Defiance bypass. Although this bypass is much more reliable and quicker, I kind of miss being right along the banks of Puget Sound. As the Sounder commuter rail utilizes this bypass as well, we pass by Lakewood Station here, but I wasn't expecting to get this majestic view of some Sounder cars themselves, just hanging out, getting ready for their next run. Minutes later, we're passing by South Tacoma Station, which means that we're nearing our next stop. Once we make it through the industrial area and under I-705, the mighty Tacoma Dome makes its presence known. At the time of its opening, it was the largest arena with a wooden dome in the world, by volume. And it's just steps away from the Amtrak stop at Tacoma, aka Tacoma Dome Station. We continue to head north but make a small detour following the Puyallup River to get one more taste of some farms before the area becomes more developed. We pass through the city of Puyallup, over the river of the same name, through Sumner, Auburn, Kent, before we stop at Tukwila Station, which is often kind of used to connect over to SeaTac, before we leave and make our way towards our final stop. We pass through the industrial area of Sodo, and within a quick few minutes, we're pulling up into King Street Station in Seattle, right as a southbound train is gearing up for its trip. I grab my stuff and exit the train car, but first, I have to pay my respects to the engine. Thank you for a great ride. So, what's the best option here? Honestly, there wasn't a bad one in the bunch. Seattle to Eugene is kind of in this sweet spot travel distance wise, where all three are fairly competitive with each other. Sure, the travel time on a plane is quick, but what about the time getting to the airport, waiting at the airport, and not to mention the cost? Plane tickets are well over $200, and even then, some of the cheaper ones require a connection, therefore losing any time competitiveness. What about bus? Well, Point doesn't operate in Washington, so it's not quite apples to apples, but it's not too far off from Flixbus. It would take about 6 to 7 hours, but it is downtown to downtown service. If it's a full bus, it might not be the most comfortable ride, but it is pretty similar to sitting in a full coach cabin on an aircraft. And you can't beat the price. It would only cost about $50 for the trip, less than a quarter of the flight. And Amtrak? This is by far the most comfortable onboard experience. You have plenty of room at your very comfortable seat. Sure, if it's busy, the cafe car may be bursting at the seams, but even so, it's nice to just be able to get up and move around a bit. Price-wise, it's generally closer to bus prices than flights. Most of the trains or mixed services you can purchase through Amtrak are about $60 to $100. Just be careful not to book something with a connection resulting in a 30-hour trip when the rest take only 6.5 to 8 hours. For me, for a trip of this distance, it'll come down to price in the future, with Amtrak getting some preferential treatment due to the comfortability of train travel. But honestly, they all three work well, and it probably comes down to personal preference. My biggest takeaway, though, we need more service on the Vancouver, BC to Eugene, Oregon corridor. First till streetcar? May as well.